The laughter echoed through the restaurant like glass breaking in her chest. Diana sat frozen in the corner booth, watching her husband of 8 years lean across the table to kiss another woman. Not just any woman, the same blonde she had seen him with 3 times this month. The same one who had answered his phone last Tuesday when she called about picking up groceries. But what made her stomach turn wasn't just seeing them together. It was how comfortable they looked. How natural. The way he touched the woman's hand, the way she giggled at his jokes, the same jokes he used to tell Diana when they first met. The worst part was realizing this wasn't new. This had been going on for a long time. Diana pulled her coat tighter around herself and sank deeper into the booth. She had followed him here after he said he was working late again. 4th time this week. She told herself she was being paranoid, that 8 years of marriage meant something. But now she knew the truth. Her phone buzzed. A text from him, "Sorry honey, stuck at the office. Don't wait up." She watched him type the message while sitting 3 tables away from her. Watched him lie to her face without even looking at her. The woman across from him, tall, thin, everything Diana felt she wasn't, placed her hand over his as he put the phone down. "You're terrible," she heard the woman say through the quiet restaurant. "Lying to your wife like that." Diana expected shame, guilt, something human from her husband. Instead he shrugged. She doesn't suspect anything. She's too busy with her little job anyway. Her little job. Diana worked 60 hours a week as a nurse, paying most of their bills while he struggled with his consulting business. Her little job that kept their lights on and food in their fridge. "When are you going to tell her?" the woman asked. "Tell her what?" "That you're leaving her. That we're together now." He laughed. Actually laughed. "Who said anything about leaving her? This is perfect the way it is. I get the best of both worlds." Diana felt something die inside her chest. Not her heart breaking, that would hurt. This was worse. This was the slow death of hope. The final breath of trust. She sat there for another hour, watching them share dessert, watching him pay with the credit card she helped him get approved for, watching him walk the woman to her car and kiss her goodbye under the streetlight. When he finally came home at midnight, Diana was in bed pretending to sleep. He slipped in beside her, smelling like perfume that wasn't hers. "How was work?" she whispered into the darkness. "Exhausting," he said. "Big presentation tomorrow." Another lie. She knew his calendar better than he did. There was no presentation. That night, Diana stared at the ceiling until sunrise, planning. Not revenge, she wasn't that type of person. But planning her escape. Planning her freedom. Planning the life she deserved. Because for the first time in 4 years of marriage, she saw herself clearly. She had been living as half a person, accepting crumbs while he fed full meals to someone else. She had been grateful for his attention, thankful for his time, apologetic for taking up space in her own life. No more. The next morning, while he showered, she opened his laptop. She needed to know how deep this went. How long she had been living a lie. The emails went back 4 years. 4 years of planning trips without her, 4 years of intimate messages, 4 years of him building a whole other life. There were photos of them together at places he told Diana he went alone. Restaurant receipts for romantic dinners on nights he said he was with friends. Hotel bookings for weekends he claimed were work conferences. But the worst were the messages about her. About Diana. "She's getting suspicious," he had written 6 months ago. "Maybe it's time to end things with her," the woman replied. "Not yet. She still pays most of the bills. And honestly, she's so pathetic I almost feel sorry for her." Diana read that line 5 times. Pathetic. Her husband of 8 years thought she was pathetic. She printed everything. Every email, every photo, every receipt. Not for court, she didn't want anything from him. But for herself. Proof that she wasn't crazy, wasn't imagining things, wasn't the problem. When he came out of the bathroom, she was making breakfast like nothing had changed. "You're quiet this morning," he said, grabbing coffee. "Just thinking." "About what?" She looked at him, really looked at him. This man she had loved, trusted, built a life with. This man who thought she was pathetic. "About how people can live right next to each other and be complete strangers," she said. He wasn't listening. He was already on his phone, probably texting her. "I'll be late again tonight," he said without looking up. "I know," Diana said quietly. And she did know. She knew everything now. That afternoon, Diana did something she hadn't done in years. She called in sick to work, actually sick, not pretending, and sat in her car outside the apartment building where she now knew his girlfriend lived. She wasn't stalking. She was understanding. Understanding how completely her life had been built on lies. At 3 o'clock, she watched him walk into the building. At 6, she watched them leave together for dinner. At 10, she watched him kiss her goodnight and drive home to Diana. Home to his pathetic wife who paid the bills. When he walked in at 10:30, Diana was waiting. "How was your day?" she asked. "Long, tiring. You know how it is." She nodded. "I do know. I know exactly how it is." Something in her voice made him look up from his phone for the first time in months. "Everything okay?" Diana smiled. For the first time in 4 years she felt completely honest. Everything is exactly as it should be. That night, after he fell asleep, Diana started packing. Not everything, she didn't want everything. Just the things that were truly hers. The photos from before she met him. The books she had bought with her own money. The jewelry her grandmother had left her. She was done being pathetic. Done being grateful for scraps. Done living half a life. Tomorrow she would start over. Tomorrow she would remember who she used to be before she became someone's secret shame. Diana found an apartment 3 days later. Small, clean, expensive enough to stretch her budget thin, but it was hers. No shared name on the lease, no his and hers towels in the bathroom, no pretending everything was fine when it wasn't. She had been careful. Moving money little by little from their joint account into one he didn't know about. Not stealing, just taking what she had put in. 4 years of her paychecks had mostly gone to their life together. Now she needed something for herself alone. The hardest part was acting normal. Coming home every evening, making dinner, asking about his day, listening to more lies. He had gotten comfortable with lying. Too comfortable. "Jenny wants to know if we're coming to her barbecue Saturday," Diana said over dinner Thursday night. He didn't look up from his plate. "Can't. Got that work thing." There was no work thing. She had called his office that morning pretending to be a client trying to schedule a meeting. His assistant said he had no weekend appointments planned. What kind of work thing? Conference call with the Peterson account. Boring stuff. The Peterson account had been closed for 6 months. "That's too bad," Diana said. "Jenny specifically asked for both of us. Maybe next time." Diana nodded and continued eating. Inside she was counting days. Her lease started Monday. 5 more days of this pretending. "Actually," she said carefully, "I think I'll go anyway. Haven't seen Jenny in ages." Now he looked up. "Go alone?" "Why not? You'll be working." She watched his face. Was he worried she would say something? Tell someone about his lies? Or was he just surprised that she might do something without him? "Sure," he said finally. "Have fun." But she caught him texting under the table. Probably telling his girlfriend he would be free Saturday after all. That night, Diana lay in bed making lists in her head. What to take, what to leave, what to say. She had written the letter a dozen times in her mind. She wanted it perfect. Honest but not cruel. Clear but not dramatic. She didn't want to hurt him. Even after everything, even knowing what he really thought of her, she didn't want revenge. She just wanted freedom. Friday morning, he left early for meetings. Diana called in sick again and spent the day moving her things to the new apartment. Books, clothes, the few pieces of furniture that were truly hers. It didn't take long. Most of their shared life belonged more to him than her. By afternoon, the apartment looked like a stranger lived there. Which she realized was probably true. She had been a stranger in her own life for years. She left the letter on the kitchen counter where he would see it when he came home. Simple, direct, final. "I know about Rebecca. I know about the last 4 years. I know what you really think of me. I'm not angry. I'm just done. The house is yours. The bills are yours. The lies are yours. I'm taking my life back. Don't try to find me. Don't try to explain. We both know there's nothing left to explain." She didn't sign it with love. There wasn't any left. Diana drove to her new apartment as the sun was setting. 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom, 1 parking space. One life that belonged completely to her. She ordered pizza and sat on the floor eating it out of the box. No pretending it was fine. No asking about anyone's day. No waiting for someone to come home who wished he were somewhere else. Her phone started ringing at 8 o'clock. She let it go to voicemail. Then again at 8:15. Then 8:30. By 9 o'clock he had called 12 times and sent 6 texts. "Diana, what the hell is this? Come home. We can talk about this. You can't just leave. This is crazy. Call me back. I'm coming to find you." But he didn't know where she was. For the first time in 8 years, he had no idea where she was or what she was doing. Diana turned off her phone and took a bath. A long, hot bath with bubbles and candles and music she liked. Music he had always said was too loud or too sad or too something. When she got out, she looked at herself in the mirror. Really looked. Not the quick glances while getting ready for work or bed. She studied her face, her body, her eyes. She looked tired. Older than 32. There were lines around her eyes that hadn't been there when she got married. But there was something else too. Something she hadn't seen in years. She looked like herself again. Saturday morning, Diana woke up at 9. No alarm, no schedule, no one to make breakfast for but herself. She made coffee and toast and sat by the window watching people walk by on the street below. Her phone had 47 missed calls and 23 text messages. She scrolled through them without reading most. The same things over and over. Apologies, explanations, promises to change, threats to find her. One message was different. From her sister. He called me. Said you left him. Said you were having some kind of breakdown. Are you okay? Call me. Diana smiled. Of course he would make her the crazy one. The one having a breakdown. Not the man who had been living a double life for 4 years. She called her sister back. Diana. Thank God. Are you okay? James said you just disappeared. He's worried sick. I'm fine. Better than fine. I'm free. Free? What does that mean? He said you left some crazy note and took off. Diana took a deep breath. Her sister had always liked James. Thought Diana was lucky to have him. Stable job, nice house, seemed devoted to her. He's been cheating on me for 4 years. I found out. I left. Silence on the other end. 4 years? Are you sure? I'm sure. But he seems so. He called me crying. Said he didn't know what he did wrong. He knows exactly what he did wrong. Diana spent 20 minutes explaining. The restaurant, the emails, the lies, the hotel receipts. By the end, her sister was quiet. I'm sorry, she finally said. I had no idea. No one did. That was the point. What are you going to do now? For the first time in 4 years, Diana smiled a real smile. Whatever I want. The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday. Diana signed them at the kitchen counter of her small apartment, next to a cup of coffee that had gone cold while she read through the legal language. He wasn't fighting it. Wasn't asking for anything. Just wanted it over quickly and quietly. She wondered if Rebecca had given him an ultimatum or if he was just tired of pretending to be sorry. It had been 3 months since she left. 3 months of learning how to be alone without being lonely. 3 months of remembering who she was before she became half of something that was never really whole. The hardest part wasn't missing him. The hardest part was realizing how little there was to miss. Diana had thrown herself into work. Extra shifts, covering for other nurses, staying busy. It helped pay for the apartment and kept her mind occupied. Her coworkers had noticed the change in her. You seem different, said Linda, the charge nurse. Lighter somehow. Diana was different. She laughed more. Spoke up more. Stopped apologizing for taking up space. Divorce looks good on you, Linda said with a smile. Maybe it did. Diana had lost 15 pounds without trying. Started sleeping better. Stopped that constant low-level anxiety that had followed her around for years. She had also started therapy. Something she had wanted to do for a long time but never had the money for when she was supporting 2 people. Dr. Peterson was helping her understand how she had lost herself so completely. You were trying so hard to be worth keeping, Dr. Peterson said during one session. You forgot that you were already worth keeping. It was true. She had spent 4 years trying to earn love that was never really offered. Trying to be perfect enough, quiet enough, grateful enough to deserve scraps of attention. I used to think I was lucky, Diana told her. Lucky that someone wanted to marry me. Lucky to have a house and a husband and a normal life. And now I think I was settling. We both were. The truth was, James had never really loved her. Not the real her. He had loved the idea of her. The nurse who worked long hours and didn't ask too many questions. The wife who made his life easier without making it complicated. And she had never really loved him either. Not the real him. She had loved feeling chosen. Loved having someone to come home to. Loved not being alone. But being alone wasn't the same as being lonely. She was learning that now. Diana's phone buzzed. A text from her sister. Want to come to dinner Sunday? Mike's sister is visiting. She's going through a divorce too. Diana almost said no. She wasn't ready to be someone's cautionary tale or inspiration story. But then she thought about sitting in her apartment alone again, ordering takeout and watching Netflix. Sure. What time? Sunday dinner was awkward at first. Mike's sister, Carol, kept looking at Diana like she was examining something under a microscope. So you just left? Carol asked over dessert. Just like that. Just like that. Weren't you scared? Diana thought about it. Terrified. But I was more scared of staying. Carol nodded slowly. I keep thinking about leaving. But we have the house, the kids, his family likes me. Those aren't reasons to stay married, Diana said gently. Those are just things. But what if I can't make it alone? What if you can? After dinner, Carol asked for Diana's number. In case I need someone to talk to. Someone who understands. Driving home, Diana realized something had shifted. She wasn't just the woman who left her cheating husband anymore. She was the woman who chose herself. The woman who walked away from a life that was killing her slowly. That felt like progress. At work Monday, Dr. Martinez asked her to stay late to help with a difficult patient. Mrs. Chin had been in the ICU for 2 weeks, and her family was struggling with end-of-life decisions. Diana had always been good with families in crisis. She knew how to be present without being intrusive, how to offer comfort without false hope. Thank you, Mrs. Chen's son said as they stood outside her room. You've been so kind to our family. It's my job, Diana said. No, it's more than that. You really care. That's rare. Walking to her car that night, Diana felt something she hadn't felt in years. Professional pride. Personal pride. She was good at her job. Good at helping people. Good at being herself. Her phone rang as she got in the car. A known number. Hello? Diana? It's James. Her stomach dropped. 3 months of silence and now this. What do you want? I signed the papers today. It's really over. It was over 4 years ago. We just made it official. I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But maybe we could try again? I ended things with Rebecca. I want to work on us. Diana sat in her car in the hospital parking lot, listening to the man she had once promised to love forever beg for another chance. James, there is no us. There never really was. Don't say that. We had good times. We were happy. You were comfortable. I was invisible. That's not the same as happy. I can change. I can be better. I don't want you to change. I want you to be happy with someone who actually wants the life you're offering. That's not me. She hung up before he could say anything else. Diana sat in her car for a long time after that call. Not crying, not angry. Just relieved. The conversation she had been dreading for months was over, and it had been easier than she expected. She didn't want him back. Didn't want to try again. Didn't want to return to a life that had never really fit her. For the first time since she left, Diana felt completely sure she had made the right choice. Starting the car, she drove home to her small apartment, her quiet life, her own space. Tomorrow she would work another shift, help another family, be useful in the world. Tonight, she would make dinner for one and not apologize to anyone for taking up space. 6 months after the divorce was final, Diana met Thomas. She wasn't looking for anyone. Had convinced herself she was better alone, that relationships were just complications she didn't need. She was working extra shifts, saving money, thinking about going back to school for her nurse practitioner degree. But then Mrs. Rodriguez came into the emergency room with chest pains, and her son came rushing in behind the ambulance. Is she okay? Please tell me she's okay, he said to Diana, still in his work clothes, hair messy from running. We're taking good care of her, Diana said. What's your name? Thomas. Thomas Rodriguez. She's all I have left. Diana had seen panic before. Had held hands with worried family members, had delivered good news and bad news, had watched people fall apart and pull themselves together. But something about the way Thomas looked at her made her want to do more than just her job. Come sit down, she said. Let me get you some water and tell you what's happening. She spent her break explaining his mother's condition, walking him through the tests they were running, helping him call his job to say he wouldn't be back that day. You don't have to do all this, he said as she brought him coffee from the break room. I want to, Diana said and realized it was true. Mrs. Rodriguez was fine. Heart palpitations brought on by stress and too much caffeine. They kept her overnight for observation, and Thomas never left the hospital. You should go home, Diana told him during her next break. Get some sleep. She'll be here when you get back. I can't. What if something happens? Diana understood. She had felt that same helpless worry when her own mother was sick years ago. I'll keep an eye on her, she promised. I'll call you if anything changes. He looked at her for a long moment. Why are you being so kind to us? The question caught her off guard. When had kindness become unusual enough to comment on? Because everyone deserves to have someone care, she said simply. Thomas went home for a few hours and came back with flowers for the nursing staff and a thank you card for Diana specifically. You made the worst day better, he wrote. Thank you for seeing us as people, not just another case. Diana kept the card in her locker. Not because she was interested in him romantically, but because it reminded her why she became a nurse in the first place. 2 weeks later, she saw Thomas in the grocery store. Diana. He smiled when he saw her. How are you? Good. How's your mom? Great. Back to gardening and bossing me around. Doctor says her heart is strong. They talked for a few minutes about nothing important. The weather, the high cost of groceries, how busy the hospital had been lately. I should let you get back to your shopping, Thomas said finally. Yeah, I should. Diana started to agree, then stopped. Actually, do you want to get coffee sometime? There's a place near the hospital that's not terrible. She surprised herself by asking. She hadn't dated anyone since the divorce. Hadn't wanted to. I'd like that, Thomas said. A lot. Coffee turned into dinner. Dinner turned into a movie. The movie turned into long walks and phone calls that lasted hours. Thomas was different from James in every way that mattered. He asked questions and listened to the answers. He remembered things she told him. He seemed genuinely interested in her thoughts, her work, her dreams. Tell me about nursing school, he said over dinner one night. You really want to know? I really want to know everything about you. So she told him. About staying up all night studying, about her first patient, about the moment she knew she had found her calling. James had never asked about her work except to complain when she worked late. What made you choose it? Thomas asked. I wanted to help people. I know that sounds simple, but I like being useful. I like being the person someone can count on when everything is falling apart. That's not simple at all. That's beautiful. Diana felt something she hadn't felt in years. Appreciated. Valued for who she actually was instead of what she could provide. But she was also scared. Scared of trusting again. Scared of being wrong about someone again. Scared of ending up back where she started. I have to tell you something, she said after they had been dating for 2 months. They were sitting in his car outside her apartment. She had invited him up, but suddenly she needed him to know everything before they went any further. Okay, he said, turning to face her completely. I was married before. For 8 years. He cheated on me for the last 4 years of our marriage. With the same woman. I found out and left him. Thomas was quiet for a moment. That must have been awful. It was. But the worst part wasn't the cheating. The worst part was realizing how little he actually thought of me. How little I thought of myself. What do you mean? Diana took a deep breath. I spent 4 years trying to be worth keeping. Making myself smaller and smaller so I wouldn't be too much trouble. I paid most of the bills, did most of the housework, and was grateful when he paid attention to me. Diana. I need you to know that about me. I need you to know that I don't trust easily anymore. And I need you to know that I won't do that again. I won't make myself smaller for anyone. Thomas reached over and took her hand. Good. Don't ever make yourself smaller. The world needs more people like you, not fewer. You're not scared? That I'm damaged goods or complicated or... I'm scared, Thomas said honestly. But not of you being complicated. I'm scared of not being good enough for you. I'm scared of letting you down. Diana looked at him. Really looked. This man who visited his mother every Sunday, who worked as a high school math teacher because he wanted to help kids, who had never once made her feel like she was asking for too much. I think I'm falling in love with you, she said quietly. I think I fell in love with you the day we met, he said back. That night, Diana let Thomas stay. Not just for the night, but in her life. In her heart. In the future she was building for herself. For the first time in years, she wasn't afraid of what came next. Diana moved in with Thomas after they had been dating for 8 months. Not because she needed to, but because she wanted to. Because coming home to him felt like coming home to herself. His house was everything her old house hadn't been. Warm, lived in, full of books and photos and things that told the story of a life actually being lived. There were pictures of his students on the refrigerator, awards for Teacher of the Year, thank you notes from parents. You keep everything, Diana said, looking through a box of cards and letters. My mom always said people don't say thank you enough. When someone takes the time to write it down, it deserves to be kept. Diana thought about all the thank you notes she had thrown away over the years. All the small moments of appreciation she had dismissed as not important enough to save. I want to be the kind of person who keeps thank you notes, she said. You already are, Thomas said, kissing the top of her head. Living with Thomas was nothing like living with James. There were no secrets, no lies, no walking on eggshells. When Thomas said he would be home at 6, he was home at 6. When he said he was going out with friends, he told her where and asked if she wanted to come. Don't you want guy time? Diana asked the first time he invited her to meet his friends. I want you to know the people who matter to me. I want them to know you. His friends were teachers mostly. People who cared about things beyond themselves. They welcomed Diana like she had always been part of the group, asked about her work, included her in conversations. Diana was leaving her clinical rotation at the community health center when she saw James sitting in his car across the street. Not hiding, not trying to be subtle. Just sitting there watching. Their eyes met through the windshield. He didn't look away, didn't pretend he hadn't been waiting for her. He just sat there staring. Diana got in her car and drove home, checking her rearview mirror the whole way. He didn't follow her, but she felt watched anyway. That night, she told Thomas what had happened. How long was he there? Thomas asked. I don't know. I just saw him when I came out. Did he try to talk to you? No. He just watched. Thomas was quiet for a moment. Diana, I think you should report this. To the police. For what? Sitting in a car? For stalking you. He wasn't stalking me. He was just there. Watching your workplace. Waiting for you to come out. That's stalking. Diana knew Thomas was right, but part of her still felt like she was overreacting. James had never been violent. Selfish, dishonest, thoughtless, but not violent. Let me think about it, she said. But she didn't have to think long. The next day James was there again. Same spot, same car, same staring. This time, Diana walked over to him. What do you want, James? He rolled down his window. Up close, she could see what Rebecca had meant. He looked older, thinner, like he hadn't been taking care of himself. I want to talk to you. About what? About us. About what we had. We don't have anything. We haven't had anything for over a year. That's not true. You can't just erase 8 years of marriage. Diana looked at him sitting in his car outside her workplace, and for the first time she felt sorry for him. Not sorry enough to change anything, but sorry that this was what his life had become. James, you need to stop this. Stop coming here, stop watching me. It's not healthy for either of us. I just want to understand. What did I do that was so terrible that you couldn't forgive me? The question was so absurd that Diana almost laughed. You had a 4-year affair. You lied to me every day. You called me pathetic. I never called you pathetic. I read the emails, James. I know exactly what you called me. He looked away from her then, maybe remembering what he had written, maybe just unable to face the truth of it. People make mistakes, he said quietly. That wasn't a mistake. That was a choice. 4 years of choices. So you're just going to throw away everything we built together? We didn't build anything together. You built a lie and I lived in it. But I'm not living in it anymore. Diana started to walk away, but James called after her. Is it him? The teacher? Is that why you won't even talk to me? She turned back. This has nothing to do with Thomas. This is about me choosing to live an honest life. I could be honest now. We could start over. I don't want to start over with you. I want you to leave me alone. She got in her car and drove away, hands shaking slightly. Not from fear, but from anger. Anger that he was making her life smaller again, making her look over her shoulder, making her worry about things that shouldn't be her problem anymore. That night, Thomas helped her file a police report. Not because James had threatened her, but because his behavior was escalating. Because Rebecca had been right, he wasn't the same person he used to be. What happens now? Diana asked the officer. We document it. If he continues to contact you or follow you, we can issue a restraining order. And if he doesn't stop? Then we arrest him. Diana hoped it wouldn't come to that. She hoped James would realize that what he was doing was wrong and stop on his own. But as she lay in bed that night, listening to Thomas breathe beside her, she had a feeling this was just the beginning. James didn't stop. If anything, the police report seemed to make him more determined. He started showing up everywhere. The grocery store, the gas station, the coffee shop near campus where Diana studied between classes. He never approached her directly after that day at the clinic. Just appeared places where she was watching, waiting, making sure she knew he was there. It's psychological warfare, Thomas said after Diana spotted James at 3 different locations in 1 week. He's trying to make you feel like you can't escape him. But I can't do anything about it. He's not breaking any laws by shopping at the same stores I shop at. Diana, this isn't normal behavior. You know that, right? She did know that. But knowing it and knowing what to do about it were different things. Diana started changing her routines. Different grocery stores, different gas stations, different coffee shops. It helped for a while, but then James would find her new patterns and the cycle would start over. I feel like I'm being hunted, she told Dr. Peterson during therapy. You are being hunted. That's exactly what this is. But why now? It's been over a year since I left him. Why is he doing this now? Because now you're happy. Now you're succeeding. Now you're proving that you're better off without him. Dr. Peterson was right. Diana was happy. Happier than she had ever been. School was challenging but fulfilling. Her relationship with Thomas was everything she had never known she wanted. Her life was full and rich and completely her own. Maybe that was what James couldn't stand. The harassment continued for weeks. Diana documented everything: dates, times, locations, photos when she could manage them. The police said they were building a case, but it was slow going. "We need evidence of direct contact or threats," the officer explained. "Being in the same public places isn't enough for a restraining order." Diana understood the law, but she didn't understand how James could make her feel so unsafe without technically doing anything wrong. Then one Tuesday in November, everything changed. Diana was leaving her pharmacology class when she found James waiting by her car. "We need to talk," he said. "No, we don't. And you need to leave." "I'm not leaving until you listen to me. James, there are security cameras here. You're on campus where you don't belong, bothering me when I've asked you to stop. This is going to get you arrested." "I don't care. I have nothing left to lose." Something in his voice made Diana stop walking toward her car. He looked desperate in a way that scared her. "What do you mean you have nothing left to lose?" "I lost my job. I lost my house. I lost Rebecca. I lost you. I have nothing." "I'm sorry about your job and your house. But you didn't lose me, James. You threw me away." "That's not true. You called me pathetic. You said I was too stupid to figure out what was happening. You laughed about lying to me. I was angry. I was scared. I didn't mean any of that. You meant all of it. And now you're angry that I believed you." James stepped closer to her. Not threatening but pleading. "Diana, please. Just give me a chance to explain. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking." Diana looked around the parking lot. Other students were walking to their cars, talking and laughing. Normal people living normal lives. She wanted to be one of them again. 5 minutes, she said. But not here. And not alone. They went to the student union building. Diana chose a table in the middle of the cafeteria, surrounded by people. If James was going to make a scene, at least there would be witnesses. "Talk," she said. "I know I messed up. I know I hurt you. But we were good together once. We were happy. You were happy. I was trying to survive." "That's not true." "James, do you remember our last anniversary? Our 7th? He looked confused. "What about it?" "You forgot. Completely forgot. I made dinner reservations, bought you a gift, got dressed up. You came home at 10 o'clock and asked why I was so dressed up. I was busy at work. You were with Rebecca. I know because I found the hotel receipt later." James was quiet. "Do you remember what you said when I reminded you it was our anniversary?" He shook his head. "You said, 'Oh right, sorry. We'll do something next weekend.' But we never did. Because you didn't care. You hadn't cared in years." "I cared. You just what?" "You just cared more about someone else." "It wasn't like that." "Then what was it like? Explain it to me. Make me understand why you threw away 8 years of marriage for someone you're not even with anymore." James stared at his hands. When he looked up, his eyes were red. "I don't know," he said quietly. "I don't know why I did any of it." "That's not good enough. What do you want me to say? That I was stupid? That I was selfish? That I ruined the best thing in my life for no good reason? Fine. All of that is true." Diana felt something she hadn't expected. Not forgiveness but pity. "James, you need help. Professional help. This isn't about me anymore. This is about you not being able to accept that some things can't be undone. So that's it? You're just going to give up on us?" "There is no us. There hasn't been an us for a long time." Diana stood up to leave, but James grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch me," she said sharply. He let go immediately, but the damage was done. People were staring. Someone at the next table had pulled out their phone. "I'm sorry," James said. "I didn't mean. I just need you to understand." "I understand perfectly. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine." Diana walked away, leaving James sitting alone at the table. That afternoon she got a restraining order. The restraining order changed everything. James couldn't come within 500 feet of Diana, her home, her workplace, or her school. If he violated it, he would be arrested immediately. For the first time in months, Diana felt like she could breathe. "How do you feel?" Thomas asked as they drove home from the courthouse. "Free," Diana said. "Actually free. but the freedom came with a price. Diana realized how much of her mental energy had been consumed by worrying about James, by looking over her shoulder, by changing her routines to avoid him. Without that constant anxiety, she felt lighter but also strangely empty. "I don't know what to do with myself," she told Thomas. "I've been so focused on avoiding him that I forgot what it felt like to just live normally." "So let's live normally," Thomas said. "Let's do all the things you've been too worried to do." They started small. Diana went back to her old grocery store, her old coffee shop, her old routines. The first few times she still found herself looking around, expecting to see James watching her. But he wasn't there. Gradually, Diana began to relax. She threw herself back into school with renewed energy. Her grades improved. She started participating more in study groups, even made friends with some of her classmates. "You seem different," said her study partner, Sarah. "More confident." Diana was more confident. For the first time in over a year, she felt like herself again. Christmas came and went peacefully. Diana spent it with Thomas and his family, a loud, warm gathering that felt like everything her marriage had never been. His mother had embraced Diana from the beginning, treating her like a daughter rather than a guest. "You're good for him," Mrs. Rodriguez told Diana while they washed dishes together. "I haven't seen him this happy since, well, ever." "He's good for me too," Diana said. "I can see that. You have that glow that people get when they're truly happy." That glow. Diana caught herself smiling more, laughing easier, speaking up without apologizing. She had become the person she was supposed to be all along. In January, Diana started her final semester of the nurse practitioner program. The clinical rotations were intense, but she loved the work. Loved the responsibility, the challenge, the opportunity to really help people change their lives. "Have you thought about what kind of practice you want to work in?" asked Dr. Chin, her clinical supervisor. "I'm thinking about community health. Underserved populations. People who don't always have access to good health care." "That's a noble choice. Also a challenging one." "I like challenges," Diana said, and realized it was true. The old Diana would have chosen the safe path, the easy option. This Diana wanted to make a difference. One afternoon in February, Diana was working at the community health clinic when she overheard two of the other nurses talking. "Did you hear about that guy who got arrested outside the nursing school?" one of them said. Diana's blood went cold. "What guy?" she asked. "Some man who was harassing one of the students. Apparently he'd been stalking her for months. Campus security finally caught him trying to break into her car." "When did this happen?" "Last week, I think." "Why?" Diana's hands were shaking. "What was his name?" "I don't know." "Why, do you think you know him?" Diana excused herself and called the police officer who had helped her with the restraining order. "Was it James Patterson?" she asked when she got through. "I can't give you details about ongoing cases, but yes, we arrested someone for violating a restraining order last week. He's been charged with stalking and attempted breaking and entering." "Is he in jail?" "He made bail yesterday." Diana's heart sank. James was out. Still angry, still desperate, still fixated on her. "What do I do now?" she asked. "You stay alert. You follow the safety plan we discussed. And you call us immediately if you see him or if anything feels wrong." Diana drove home carefully, checking her mirrors, taking a different route than usual. When she got to Thomas's house, she checked all the locks twice. "What's wrong?" Thomas asked as soon as he saw her face. She told him about James's arrest, about him making bail, about the fear that was creeping back into her chest like a familiar poison. "We need to talk about you staying somewhere else for a while," Thomas said. "I'm not running away again. I'm not letting him control my life. This isn't about running away. This is about being smart." "He's escalating," Diana. "Breaking into cars, violating restraining orders. What's next?" Diana knew Thomas was right, but the thought of changing her life again because of James made her furious. "I'm so tired of this," she said. "I just want to live my life without thinking about him." "I know, and you will. But right now we need to be careful." That night, Diana couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about the nursing student whose car James had tried to break into. What if he had mistaken her for Diana? What if he was getting confused, desperate enough to hurt innocent people? The next morning, Diana made a decision. She was tired of being afraid, tired of looking over her shoulder, tired of letting James's obsession control her life. She was going to end this once and for all. Diana's plan was simple. She would arrange to meet James in a public place with police nearby and tell him directly that his behavior had to stop. Not just for her sake but for his own. "That's a terrible idea," Thomas said when she explained it. He's already violated one restraining order. He's not going to listen to reason. Maybe not. But I have to try. I can't keep living like this, and neither can he. Diana had thought about it all night. James wasn't evil. He was broken, desperate, clinging to something that had never really existed. Maybe if she could make him understand that, he would finally let go. She arranged to meet him at the police station. If he wanted to talk to her, it would be there, with officers present, completely safe and completely final. To her surprise, he agreed. James looked even worse than he had at the campus. Thinner, older, like he hadn't slept in weeks. He sat across from her in the small conference room with his hands folded on the table. "Thank you for agreeing to see me," he said. "This is the last time, James. After today, we never speak again. I understand. Do you? Because your behavior says otherwise." James looked down at his hands. I know I've made mistakes. You tried to break into someone's car. You violated a restraining order. Those aren't mistakes, James. Those are crimes. I thought it was your car. I wanted to leave you a letter. It doesn't matter whose car it was. You can't break into cars. You can't follow people. You can't show up at their workplace and watch them. I know that now. Diana studied his face. He looked genuinely ashamed, but she had learned not to trust James's expressions. Why are you doing this? Really? What do you hope to accomplish? James was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely audible. I want my life back. Your life. The life I had with you. The house, the routine, the feeling like I belonged somewhere. James, you gave up that life. You chose someone else over me for 4 years. I made a mistake. You made a choice. Every day for 4 years you made the same choice. I was confused. I was stupid. I thought I could have both. But you couldn't. And now you can't have either. James looked up at her then, and Diana saw something in his eyes that surprised her. Not anger or desperation, but recognition. You're different, he said. What do you mean? You're not the same person you were when we were married. You're stronger. More sure of yourself. Diana felt something shift in the room. For the first time in months, James was seeing her clearly. I am different, she said. I'm who I was supposed to be all along. I never let you be that person, did I? The question caught Diana off guard. She had expected him to argue, to make excuses, to blame everyone but himself. No, she said simply. You didn't. I kept you small because I was afraid you'd realize you were too good for me. Diana stared at him. In all their years together, James had never been this honest about anything. And then I made sure you would realize it, he continued. I treated you so badly that you had no choice but to leave. James, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I know I don't deserve it. I'm just asking you to understand that I know what I lost. I know what I threw away. Diana felt tears in her eyes. Not for their marriage, that was long dead, but for the waste of it all. The years of unhappiness that could have been avoided if he had been brave enough to be honest. I understand, she said. But understanding doesn't change anything. I know. I just needed you to know that I know. They sat in silence for a moment. Outside the conference room, Diana could hear phones ringing, people talking, life going on. What happens now? James asked. Now you get help. Real help. And you leave me alone to live my life. And if I don't? Then you go to prison. And I still live my life, just with less worry. James nodded slowly. I don't want to go to prison. Then don't. It's hard. Letting go. I don't know how to do it. You learn. You talk to someone. You figure out why you can't let go of something that was never really yours to keep. Diana stood up to leave, but James spoke again. Are you happy? With him? Diana thought about lying, about protecting his feelings. But she had spent too many years protecting James's feelings at the expense of her own truth. Yes, she said. I'm very happy. Good. You deserve to be happy. So do you? But not with me. Diana left the police station feeling lighter than she had in months. Not because she thought James would definitely change, but because she had finally said everything she needed to say. That evening, she and Thomas celebrated her graduation with dinner at their favorite restaurant. The same place where they had talked about second chances almost 2 years ago. How do you feel? Thomas asked as they waited for dessert. Free, Diana said. Finally, completely free. Think he'll leave you alone now? I think so. I think he finally understands that what we had is really over. And if he doesn't? Then we deal with it. But I'm not going to spend any more time worrying about what James might do. Thomas reached across the table and took her hand. Good. Because I have something I want to ask you. Diana's heart skipped. Thomas? I know we talked about waiting until after graduation. I know you wanted to figure out who you are as a nurse practitioner first. But I can't wait anymore. He pulled out a small velvet box and placed it on the table between them. I know who you are. You're the woman I want to spend my life with. You're brilliant and kind and strong and absolutely everything I didn't know I was looking for. Diana stared at the box, then at Thomas, then back at the box. Are you asking me to marry you? I'm asking if you'll let me love you for the rest of our lives. If you'll build something real with me. If you'll be my partner in everything. Diana thought about James, about Rebecca, about all the years she had spent settling for less than she deserved. Then she thought about Thomas, about the life they had built together, about the woman she had become. Yes, she said. Yes to all of it. As Thomas slipped the ring onto her finger, Diana caught sight of someone watching them through the restaurant window. James. But this time, instead of fear, Diana felt only sadness for him. Sadness that he was still watching other people's happiness instead of building his own. She turned back to Thomas, to her future, to the life she had chosen. Let James watch. Let him see what real love looked like. Maybe it would finally teach him what he had lost. The wedding was small, simple, perfect. Just family and close friends in Thomas's backyard, with flowers from his mother's garden and cake from the bakery where they had bought pastries on their second date. Diana wore a dress she had chosen herself, not because it was what a bride was supposed to wear, but because it made her feel beautiful. Thomas wore the suit he had worn to his college graduation, the one that made him look like the teacher he was proud to be. You look happy, Diana's sister said as they got ready that morning. I am happy, Diana said, and meant it completely. The ceremony was everything her first wedding hadn't been. Honest, joyful, focused on the promises they were making rather than the show they were putting on. When Thomas said his vows words he had written himself about choosing her every day, about supporting her dreams, about being partners in everything, Diana cried the kind of tears that come from pure happiness. I promise to never make you smaller, he said, making her laugh through her tears. I promise to love all of you, especially the parts of you that are still growing. Diana's vows were simpler. I promise to trust you with my heart. I promise to build a life with you that's honest and real. I promise to choose you every day the way you choose me. When the minister pronounced them husband and wife, Diana felt something she had never felt at her first wedding. Complete. Not because she was half of something now, but because she was whole and choosing to share that wholeness with someone who was whole too. The reception was held in the same backyard, with string lights and music and dancing on the grass. Diana danced with Thomas, with his father, with her sister's husband. She laughed until her cheeks hurt and ate cake with her fingers and felt absolutely, perfectly herself. Around 10 o'clock, as the party was winding down, Diana stepped outside for some air. The night was warm, the stars were bright, and she could hear laughter and music drifting from the backyard. Beautiful wedding. Diana turned to find James standing at the edge of the property. Not close enough to be threatening, but close enough to be seen. James, you can't be here. The restraining order. I'm not on your property. I'm on the street. Technically legal. Diana looked at him. He seemed different. Calmer. Sadder, but not desperate anymore. What do you want? To apologize. Really apologize. Not for what I want from you, but for what I did to you. You already apologized. Not properly. Not completely. Diana glanced back at the house. She could see Thomas through the window talking to his mother, laughing at something she said. Her husband. Her partner. Her choice. You have 5 minutes, she said. I've been going to therapy, James said. Real therapy. Trying to understand why I did what I did. Why I couldn't let go. And I think I was afraid. Afraid that if you became who you really were, you'd leave me. So I tried to keep you from becoming that person. Diana said nothing. But you became her anyway. You became who you were supposed to be. And I was right, you did leave me. But not because you changed. Because I never let you be yourself in the first place. James? I'm not telling you this because I want anything from you. I'm telling you this because you deserve to know that what happened wasn't your fault. You weren't too much or not enough or any of the things I made you feel like you were. Diana felt tears in her eyes. Not for James, not for their marriage, but for the years she had spent believing she was the problem. Thank you, she said quietly. I'm going to leave you alone now. Really leave you alone. I'm moving to Portland next month. Starting over somewhere new. Good. I hope you find what you're looking for. I hope so too. James looked at the house, at the lights and the laughter and the life Diana had built. He's a good man, isn't he? The best. Good. You deserve the best. James turned to leave, then stopped. Diana? For what it's worth, I think you were always this person. This strong, confident woman. I just spent so much time trying to convince you that you weren't that. Maybe I convinced myself too. Maybe, Diana said. But it doesn't matter now. No, I suppose it doesn't. Diana watched James walk away, get into his car, and drive out of her life for the last time. She felt something she hadn't expected, not relief or victory but peace. Thomas appeared beside her a moment later. Everything okay? He asked. Perfect, Diana said, taking his hand. Everything is perfect. They went back inside together, back to their wedding party, back to their friends and family and the life they had chosen together. Later that night, as they lay in bed in their new house, the one they had bought together, the one that belonged to both of them equally, Thomas asked Diana how she felt. Like myself, she said. Finally, completely like myself. And how does that feel? Diana thought about the question. She thought about the woman she had been when she was married to James, small, grateful, always apologizing. She thought about the woman she had become, strong, confident, taking up space without shame. It feels like coming home, she said. Thomas kissed her forehead. Welcome home then. Diana smiled in the darkness. Home. Not a place, not a person, but a feeling. The feeling of being completely known and completely loved for exactly who you were. She had spent so many years looking for that feeling in the wrong places, with the wrong person, in the wrong ways. But now she had found it. Not because someone had given it to her, but because she had given it to herself. And that, Diana thought as she drifted off to sleep in her husband's arms, was the best revenge of all. Not hurting the person who had hurt her, but living so fully and happily that their opinion of her became completely irrelevant. She had chosen herself. She had chosen love. She had chosen a life that was honest and real and completely her own. And James would have to live with the knowledge of what he had lost. Not just Diana, but the chance to be part of something real. The chance to love someone completely and be loved completely in return. That was his punishment, his consequence, his burden to bear. Diana was free of all of it now. Free to be happy, free to be loved, free to be exactly who she was supposed to be. Finally, completely, joyfully free.